What's up YouTube, my name is Tabexi and today I'll be bringing you a more detailed guide to the Blade Vortex build I've been playing to reach depth 2800 in Path of Exile's Betrayal League. So after starting out the league pushing for first 100, making some currency and juiced up elder maps and pure beach tones, we decided to start pushing the Elf Ladder, as to us it was a lot of fun and it would eventually yield us a decent amount of currency as well. So what we initially did is we geared out we speedrun until like depth 500 using an LE hit zoom character or something until the nodes actually got really hard. And then we geared the Hawa Occultist character, which you can see on the footage, and we ended up sinking a decent amount of money into this, like a couple hundred exalts. Even then though, at like the depths 14 to 1500, the damage started to feel like very, very bad. And the tankiness wasn't really there as well. Like as you can see on the video, this is depth 900-ish, and we already start taking like a decent amount of damage. So eventually we know we had to go back to the drawing board. Now after a decent theory crafting session, we figured out our best play would be to go for a Poet's Pen ending on build, with a Mana Guardian to give us the defenses we needed. I ended up playing Ball Lightning Arc Poet's Pen while relying on a Mana Guardian to get me up to 16k energy shield. And however, the build did like over 50 million Shaper DPS. Even this build fell off pretty badly and pretty fast damage-wise. So back to the drawing board again. Now, we felt like all of the tries we did left us with only one play, which was kill the monsters before they kill you kind of playstyle. Now this works as long as you're running towards the end of a node, but as soon as you hit the end of the node, there's like on-death effects, there's like triggering things, and you can't really avoid the monsters that much anymore. So we had to figure out a way to become immune to all incoming damage at the end of the encounter, because basically tanking it was no longer possible. We decided to use Gluttony of Elements for this. Now the big discrepancy compared to last league here was that Gluttony of Elements was unable to be preemptively charged when you started a node. Last league you could do this through like stacking Worm Flasks and using Rampage Gloves, but this was nerfed by GGG this league because it was considered too strong. This left us with the question, how do we initially gain charges? And the best thing we could come up with was running a duration skill, Blade Vortex, and phase running through all the monsters at the speed of light, hoping to just not get hit or not give them the time to actually channel or finish an animation on a damaging hit. So the big reason we chose this duration skill was because of how Temporal Chains works when you apply it through on yourself through Shackles of the Wretched Gloves. It effectively makes time pass by 4 times slower on you, meaning not only your Gluttony of Elements would last 4 times longer, which is a necessity for the build to work, but also your Blade Vortex stacks, Arcane Surge, Phase Run, and Val Righteous Fire would like pretty much expire 4 times slower. Therefore, we can like do all our things at the start of the node, like charge Blade Vortexes, get Arcane Surge up, press Phase Run, and we can keep running for almost a minute before any of these things fade away. Which is important because whenever you would have to stop because you don't have a Blade Vortex up or something, you will die if you don't have the Gluttony up. Because like if you don't have Gluttony, you die to anything. But as you can see on the footage in the background, like as soon as you have all your stuff up and you start running through a node, you basically never have to stop. So then it's basically, can you be fast enough and can you kill monsters fast enough to actually make sure you can charge your Gluttony to like X amount of charges and then complete the node. Now since Delve scaling works differently this league, we were required to go over 30 million Shaper DPS to actually be able to kill monsters early on, to be able to charge Gluttony of Elements, which is a significantly higher DPS trick than it was last league. Now, since probably the Gluttony of Elements mechanic is pretty new to all of you, I want to quickly go over all of the mechanics behind it. Now, if you want a deeper look into the whole idea behind this, I'll have to forward you to either another video, or you can come and check out stream where there's like a written explanation, there's a little clip of it, or you can just ask me in person, I'll explain. Now, the Gluttony of Elements makes you heal for any kind of elemental damage you take during the uptime of the buff. This effectively means you're immune to elemental damage, but you're still vulnerable to physical damage. Now, how we counteract this is by converting 30% from all physical hits taken as lightning damage. Now, this means if any physical hit would hit us, the damage division would be 70 physical, 30 lightning. Given we would heal 30 lightning and then take 70 physical, we will still effectively take 40 damage. What we did to further mitigate this is we don't have any resist on any kind of gear. There's minus 60 res on the lightning coil, there's minus 10 on the amulet, and then furthermore, through Shackles of the Wretched, we can curse ourselves with elemental weakness. This brings our total lightning res at minus 240 or something. What that effectively does is it makes us take, I think it is 4.5 times the amount of lightning damage we would initially take. Now, if you then think about 70-30, the 30 would actually be 120, which makes it so you take more lightning damage than you take physical damage from a pure physical hit. And then since you heal for elemental damage, you would heal for more than you would initially take damage, which makes you not take any damage at all, because the calculation of Gluttony of Elements occurs in one instance. Now, because of all of these shenanigans, there's a couple of pieces of gear we're forced into. Since we temp chains ourselves for max duration on our buffs, we need comms roots, because if we don't have comms roots, we're gonna be super slow. Because we run the Gluttony, we obviously need the amulet. We also need a soul catcher. We need a bloodstained mod, which is 40% reduced soul cost of Val skills, and we need a conqueror's potency. Where is it? Conqueror's potency in our tree, because the combination of these three things, 40, 25, and Flask Effect, together with Alchemist, makes it so effectively the Gluttony of Elements doesn't cost 100 souls, but less than 33. This is important because that makes you able to charge up 3 charges before you initially have to use it, which is important for some like longer nodes, like a Harbinger node comes to mind, or a T3 Azerite comes to mind, where you actually need the 3 charges at the end of the encounter to be able to kill the bolster or to complete the encounter. Now, other than that, everything we did was damage oriented. Like, I picked up a ton of damage nodes, and like eventually we swapped to bow and quiver. Now, why is this? Because the two only stats that are effectively better than any bench mod on any kind of weapon are achievable to Delph fossils exclusively, which is the Etheric mod, which is socketed skills deal 20% more spell damage, and the Bloodstained mod, which is required for the build to work. Now, any other damage mod is pretty much bench only. And since it's bench only, you might as well use, the cheapest weapon you can get, or the one that gives you the most damage. And since you're using a bow, you're getting a quiver. Now, for Blade Vortex, if you check a Signal Fire out, Physis Extra Fire with a Physis Extra Fire Corrupt is pretty big. So the quiver is like a 20% more damage, while the bow is like 2% worse than a staff or an Exquisite Blade, because you lose an implicit. It was the most damage we could find. Furthermore, I'm using a Blade Vortex Multiplier helmet, which is pretty much the same damage as the spell damage one, but this one was cheaper at the time of purchasing. And here you want, like, the best helmet you could get would be T1 Chaos to spells, T1 Fist to spells, and then either area damage or minion damage. Since you have Spiritual 8 in the tree, minion damage will be pretty good. And then -9 Chaos stress from the Aberrant Fossil. But since I crafted this with Hollow Fossils for an Abyssal Socket, which is about 7% more damage, I ended up keeping this, since like every try was like 0.5 Exalt or something. And for now, I'm pretty happy with this, but I'll eventually revisit it when the damage starts to be, kind of slow. So next to that, I use a Coward's Legacy, because it makes me count as low life when I'm cursed with Vol, and the belt curses with Vol, so I can pick up Pain Attunement for 30% more spell damage. Additionally, I also have a Stealth Flagellation, so I curse myself with Temp Chains and Eliwake, and also Vulnerability to the belt, so it's an extra damage increase. And then I have a multi-modded ring, which is damage. This is more of a stat stick with spell damage on it. But yeah, damage where you can find it. As for our links, we're using Blade Vortex linked to Controlled Destruction and Power 4, which is actually in Power 6 because of the +2 supports. Power Charge on Critical, Fist to Lightning, and Conk Effect. My other links are, I have an Enlightened 4 linked to Herald of Ash, Hatred. I have Phase Run linked to Enhance, Increased Duration, and Arcane Surge. And then I have Righteous Fire linked to Increased Duration, or like Val Righteous Fire, I'm sorry. In my gloves, I have the standard setup, Temp Chains, Curse on Hit, Eliwake, and then I swap out Orb of Storm as the start of the node, but generally I curse myself or I keep it up through Herald of Thunder. As for jewels, I'm running an Unnatural Instinct here, which is the standard, right? It's a lot of multi, it's pretty big, gives you some movement speed, pretty good in general. I'm getting a Watcher's Eye, which is not that good anymore, because initially I was playing with a support who was running Rav, and then it was really strong. But now it's pretty much just a 1 stat, and it'll get replaced one of these days. And the rest of I'm running an Intuitive right here, which is also a mistake. I should probably be able to fix this eventually. through further gear upgrades, but the frenzy charges right now are better than a jewel, so I need to overcharge to pick up a jewel. You could get frenzy charge on a precursor's emblem, for example, or like, I don't know, there has to be another way to find frenzy as well, but for now I'm just using it intuitively with overcharge. My other jewels are generally just multi damage somehow. This is minion damage with double multi fire damage. This one's not that good. A self-flag. This is a tempered flesh, which is pretty good. It's 40 multi. And it's a unique jewel, so you can get a corrupt on that. Corrupting blood and corruption is pretty good. Even though I'm running Astonishing, when you get nullified, you're insta-lit, so it's pretty big. Conqueror's Potency, I've explained why before. Another damage fizz multi-jewel. With some chaos damage on it, I guess. And then as for the tree, basically pick up Curse Effect, pretty big. And then pick up Alchemist, because you need it for the souls to be sub 33. And then just, I don't know, like if there was a thing where you could type damage and then highlight every single note that would give you damage, you just click those. You just take all the damage you can find while maintaining some stat necessities depending on your gear. As for Occultist, the same thing applies. You don't take Val Bastion because you don't want defenses. You pick up the power charge damage. You pick up this for the extra curse effectiveness, Profane Bloom, you know, damage. And then this is pretty good as well because it gives makes you have minus 29 lightning chaos with the helmet, which means even in plus 25 chaos rest zones, you're always gonna do decent damage chaos wise, and a lot of your damage is chaos because of the bow. The bow is just the 2 stats you need, and then your multi-mod plus 2 supports because it makes some power pretty big, which makes your Blade Vortex level 26. And then I opted in to do double damage while focused. The standard double damage roll is fine as well. It's a little bit less good because you can like choose when you need the focus damage, which I think is kind of okay. It makes the build harder to execute, but it's fine. And then non-chaos chaos is just a really good stat. I think that's all I need to cover. You're also CI, obviously, because you can't take Fizz, you can't take Ellie, but you can take Chaos, so going CI makes it so you can't no longer take Chaos damage. Now, something important for me to explain to you guys during this guide, this is not a mapping build, this is not a bossing build. The only thing this build does is actually delving. You can map on it, but it's not that convenient because you need to charge your 3 charges without getting hit, so you'll die, you know, maybe once or twice a map. And I feel like if you're not planning on going to delve sub 1500, there is very little point in actually playing this build. However, there's gonna be a wall you're gonna hit on whichever build you're playing, and then I feel like you have to become immune to be able to progress further south. There are some shenanigans you could pull off and some mechanics you could use in a standard Blade Vortex build, like I would probably be doing later on in the league. I'll probably be using Shackles, the Shackles Coward Strahl and Combs Root with a self-flag combination at some point in the league to like make an actual Blade Vortexer, because I think it's a pretty big QOL that you don't have to recast your Blade Vortexes every 10 seconds. And it's a lot of fun to play, honestly. And since I already have the OP bow and the quiver, I can probably make something work. But yeah, in its current state, it's not made for mapping, it's not made for killing any game bosses, it's only made for delving. So as to how the build works, you start off the node by charging 1 Worm Flask, which you can do in your hideout, right? You have to make sure you have it on your belt. Then you swap out your Herald of Thunder for your Orb of Storms. You swap out your belt if you want a Snapshot Rampage for more movement speed, which is pretty fun. I would recommend this. Now why you do this is because if you don't use the Worm Flask, you cannot kill one worm with your Shackle setup, which means you're not temp chased. Which means your Blade Vortex stacks are gonna drop way faster, your Phase Run is gonna drop way faster, your Flasks are gonna drop way faster, and you're basically gonna have a lot less time to gather your charges. And this might not matter, like I'm doing a very low node right now because I'm out of Sulfite, but if this was like a T3 Azurite node, I would need 3 charges to complete it, which means I will effectively need all the uptime I can get and just keep running. So you swap in your belt, you swap in your Orb of Storms, you spawn 1 worm, now you're gonna kill it in the Shackles, which is gonna curse me with Temp Chains and Ellie Week. There we go. Swap in the Herald again, swap in the belt again, and then I swap out the Worm Flask for a Damage Flask. Now I press Phase Rune to proc Arcane Surge, press my Lava Yangas and my Soul Catcher, charge up my Blade Vortexes, and now I just run. I run and I keep running. I never stop. I have one charge now, which I'm gonna use. So now I'm immune. Whatever I do, I'm immune. So as long as I keep this up, I will be immune to damage. And this is a drop bear note, which usually takes you, it's a timed encounter, so I might actually die here. Because I might not have enough souls. But like you see, the timers are fading very slowly. There we go. So we completed the node now. And then here, since you already have your temp chains and your LE up, I could continue going. Because I have everything I need. Like, I'm not gonna lose any stacks. So I could just run here. I don't have it up right now, but I'm gonna gain charges. One charge, this is the second charge, and this is gonna be a third charge next pack. So now I can use it. Pop my Righteous Fire. And we're good for another node. So this is how the build works. Now this is at very low depths. Like eventually, there's gonna be a point where it's impossible to one-shot monsters, and when it's impossible to one-shot monsters, you are going to have to deal with the fact you're occasionally gonna die, because if you don't actually one-shot every single mob, it is possible to get hit eventually. This is a short T1 Azerite, which means the node will die in like one charge, or it should die in one charge. There we go, Golem spawn, which makes him complete the node. So that's how the build works in effect. It's really fun to play. You shouldn't play it though unless you want to go very deep, because it's pointless to run at that depth, in my opinion. Although it can be really fun, I guess. It's also not the most expensive build, because my build's optimized right now to do depth 2.5 to 3k. And I think even right now, I think you can, like, I serviced this bow for a couple of people because I have a base I can make copies of through beast recipes right here. But I think if you count the bow at 20 exalts and then all the rest of the gear for like depth 2000, it's probably only 25 exalts. So it's not that expensive considering it's a depth 2.5k build, which are generally really expensive and really min-maxed. But the rest of the gear is like super cheap. I mean, you could invest into this ring and this helmet and whatnot, but in general, it's like you can get by with a lot less damage at those kind of depths. So I think, that being said, I think I covered everything else to say about the build. However, if there's any questions, feel free to drop a comment. Or you can always hit me up at twitch.tv/tbxe. We stream 12 to 16 hours a day generally, and we try to be as educative as possible. So if if you ever have any questions, let me know. If you liked the video, make sure to hit the like button and make sure to press the subscribe button if you want to. And then without further ado, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to catch you on stream sometime or to see you in a later video. For now, thanks for watching. Peace.